Hey, all you happy lost souls. How y'all doing out there? As I always do, I want to thank you all. The channel just keeps on growing. Um, I usually post videos kind of in groupings, like every couple weeks. There'll be one or two videos posted. Sometimes I'll go on a frenzy and post multiple videos. Um, what I want to get out of the way is if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, comment, like. This is an open forum for thought. Um, Even if you think your idea is way out there, it's a free place, free of politics, and a place where we believe that asking questions, and even ones that might not be the most popular, can lead to some magnificent discoveries. If you followed the channel at all, you know it's pretty eclectic. There's a lot of original music, poetry. That's kind of how the channel started, but then I started posting things about my other hobbies like rock hounding, gem hunting, and of course, archaeology and the early peopling of North America. And this vast unknown piece of history that could help tie together the global story of humanity in so many ways. It's a missing piece, especially South America and North America, and how these vast groups of tribes and peoples were all related through trade at some point. How there's so much more sophisticated archaeology in North America that just gets overlooked because it doesn't fit the Clovis first narrative, or people are afraid of land discovery rights, or any of that kind of stuff gets suppressed usually. The last video I posted was all about the megalithic passage tombs, chambers, walls, and megalithic construction all up the East Coast. I think I had a user post, there's enough stone work left behind on the East Coast, even in modern times, even the stuff that wasn't robbed out by the colonials and other people that came along. There was enough of these structures left to this day up and down the East Coast to go to the moon. And I think just to the moon maybe, but there's more stonework than in ancient Egypt up the East Coast of North America, and no one really knows who left it. The falsehood that they put out is that these were colonial root sellers, but anybody with firsthand knowledge or even amateur knowledge of Neolithic archaeology can look at them and say, oh, these are identical to the constructions found all over ancient Neolithic landscapes. Serpent Mound, this is the same thing. This is a massive mound complex in the shape of a serpent swallowing an egg, or the sun. It's a representation of the sun. And this structure is aligned perfectly to a notch in the mountain where the sun appears perfectly, as though the mouth is eating the sun, the mouth of the snake during solstice. These landscape alignments and these megalithic passage tombs and chambers and henges and standing stones and dolmens, they're not explained. The Native Americans, many of the tribes that moved into the area even thousands of years ago, said that these structures were already there. They were already here in the early 1600s. The first colonials that started clearing the land, this stuff was already there. These massive rock walls, especially in the New England, New York area, Rhode Island. I was just out in Western PA recently. I did not get permission to film on the private land that I was on, but they had chambers and dolmens on their land too, with massive stone walls. And in this case, there's an ancient potato field nearby too. So what you're looking at is most likely ancient Neolithic farmers were clearing massive amounts of land, and they kept their ritual traditions alive by having these dolmens and these chambers as a larger part of their spiritual belief system, which we know very little about. These are often used as burials, but this is ancient Proto-Celts, like the people that were there when the Romans moved in to England, that were already there. That we see these sites in the Mediterranean. We see these sites in Russia, in Asia, in Siberia, all over the world. So why wouldn't they be in the United States? Well, they are. They're just being covered up, or not taken seriously. There hasn't been any serious archaeology really done around these structures. There isn't really, in a few cases where there was some actual archaeology done at some of these structures up the northeast coast of America, there hasn't really been any Native American artifacts found in association with them. Even up around the North American Stonehenge, which I think is in Connecticut or New Hampshire. I'll make a video explaining that, because there's a sacrificial table. There's a lot of things going on there that look very, Bronze Age into early Iron Age type stuff. In my area, where I did a video, a couple of videos back, you guys should check out if you're interested in this stuff, called The Mystery of Megalithic Blocks of the Pennypack, where in all the area around where I live and where a lot of these artifacts are found, there's Welsh place names, there's these crazy ancient quarried blocks. A lot of people argue they were there from the railroad, or they're there from a construction of a cathedral nearby, but the stuff was documented as being there way before the existence of any of that, as early as the earliest settlers along the creek. Those big megalithic blocks were already there. And it is a collapsed dolmen. There was a dolmen stone or mantle stone that went across the top of those two collapsed stones and is downstream further in the creek, laying there. And there's also what looks like an old Phoenician, I think they're called a topa. They're like a bowl, like a large stone, almost like a podium or pillar, sacrificial pillar with a bowl. And they would sacrifice animals and sometimes even in children. The Phoenicians and the rituals around Baal were known to do this. There's even, cemeteries in, parts of the land of Africa where the Phoenicians were, which the Phoenicians became the enemies of Rome in the Punic Wars. So, it's escaping me what the Phoenician Empire eventually became. Hannibal fought for them. Oh, Carthage. So the Phoenician civilization was like a bunch of small trading cities along the African coast, along the Mediterranean, on the other side, across the Mediterranean Ocean from the Romans and the Italians. Eventually, once these groups became powerful and they unified, they became the nation of Carthage, or Carthage was the major city of the Phoenician Empire. Obviously, they were in massive wars against Rome, the Punic Wars. Eventually, Rome destroyed Carthage and salted its fields and burnt it to the ground, so it could never be reestablished again. But there's many periods of trial and tribulation where groups of these people could have banded up or broke apart from all the collapsed empires during the Bronze Age, and with their sailing expertise and trading knowledge, a lot argue that the Phoenicians were over here with groups of Celts mining copper, and it could very well be the case. Now, I made this video because the channel is kind of all over the place. I have videos about the lost silver mines in PA. I discovered some of the entrances to those by following old documents and old legends. If you want to go deeper into that, I have entire videos on my channel about the Susquehannocks and the lost silver mine. And then all the sapphire and artifacts in the area going back thousands of years, even some that look like a Neanderthal tools. There's been fossilized bones, a pendant that looks like a mammoth head. These are all found in a Pennypack and Wissahickon and nearby tributaries. And what it shows is that the material here was being exploited by different groups going back possibly 120,000 years, which would shatter all of the Clovis first paradigms in North America. But not only that, you see hundreds of other stages of occupation or stages of industry in these same quarry sites. And they were after different things at different times. I think there was a vast network from South American Cahota. I think the Mayan influence stretched way up, and Cahota, the mound cities, they were a meeting place for the tribes from the Great Lake area and the tribes of South America. They came together as a giant trading hub, and I think it was a giant confederation, and they controlled a lot of areas, especially in Pennsylvania. There's places like Miami, Ohio, Miami, Pennsylvania. These are places named after Mayans. And a lot of the rituals of the Susquehannock, they were great at working with silver. They made Native American or Indian silver, which was a form of pewter. They traded this with the Dutch for cannon. They had cannon and guns, the Susquehannock, before the English even got here. And they were different than other tribes. They were much taller. They plucked all their hair. They practiced circumcision. They knew how to work with metal. They kind of controlled the whole Ohio, Maryland, parts of Pennsylvania, and then they moved into the eastern part of Pennsylvania. They started pushing the Lenape out over the river back in towards New Jersey and down towards Delaware. They were eventually destroyed in the 1700s by some early American settlers out by the Paxton Gang out in near Lancaster. But the Susquehanna, wherever they were, there was silver around them. They were mining silver, and there's obviously, I did a lot of research and found a lot of evidence that they were mining it right from around the area of the Pennypack. Now there's other areas. I think Pesquing Park is like called Silver Mine Park, I believe. It's in Lancaster. That's right near a known Susquehanna village or encampment. Now, document says that the Susquehanna just raided here, but never really had an encampment. But the problem is, when the settlers had moved in here in the late 1500s and 1600s, the Susquehanna were already, they rose to power, but they were already on the move, and they were just interested in trade, and they could have had a village nearby. They definitely shared the entrances to these silver mines to early French and Dutch fur trappers. That's how the story even got out there of these lost silver mines of Pennsylvania. I have other videos. Please check all those videos out. I'll try to post some of the other videos in the links below. The other thing I encourage you guys to do is I have all kinds of playlists on my channel. I have one that's called Connections Between Collections, and it's a bunch of other people across the globe and across the country that find similar things, that have similar channels. And there's other cool documentaries that tie into all this stuff found in there. I encourage you to take a look at that. If you're just listening to this stuff because it helps you go to sleep, or you found it because you watch other history stuff or other gemstone stuff, I have tons of other videos about rough stone identification, especially rough sapphire and ruby and aluminum oxide and corundum, and where it forms and how to find it. I have lots of videos about artifacts in ancient America, but all of these things tie together and why they're all happening in one area. It's because the geology and the resources are all here. They're all being exploited. Not to mention there was tons of beaver, tons of animal, tons of fishing, hunting. There was tons of tributaries that led to the big water connected to the ocean. All these tributaries eventually go to the Delaware. So they're all tidal tributaries. They not only use these streams as highways, they use them as resources like arteries. All life grows around water. And that's why any memberships, any money, anything that the channel makes, and it's just become monetized like 2 weeks ago. It's barely made any money, but as it builds, it'll make some money. A lot of that is going to be donated to save water, because water is a human need. Without it, it's a life form need. All life needs it, and it all gets recycled water. The water we have is the water we have, so we best take care of it. And I think it's a good cause to look into donating. And I'm very skeptical of a lot of charities and where the money goes, so I'll have to do my research on that. I don't like when 0.1% of donations go to the cause and 99.99% go to the pockets of the board members. So you just got to be careful with certain nonprofits and charity and donations. So I might go directly to the source with the donations. Or with the percentage I donate from the channel as it builds. But I encourage you guys all to to take a look at the other videos within the channel and about how the legend of the Susquehannock, or searching for the Susquehannock, the legends of the lost silver mines, all the gemstone quarrying and ancient artifacts found all in the area, the ancient megaliths found, and then not to mention we found those 2 megaliths that are well known from a book alongside the Pennypack that have been documented. But if you look closely at all the oldest bridges and cathedrals in the area, it looks like they robbed out a lot of other megalithic projects and used these big quarried granite boulders in more modern constructions like during the colonial period. And why not? You got all these perfectly quarried stones everywhere just sitting there, not being used. Granite is extremely hard to quarry. Limestone's easy to cut, but those are granite boulders with high metal content that are in the Pennypack. So if they had a bunch of awesome pre-cut granite blocks, they would have for sure used them in other projects instead of going through the extensive work of quarrying them. They also would have quarried much smaller blocks out of granite, not massive ones like that during the colonial period. So they're leftover remnants from some way more ancient building project. Anyways, guys, please check out all the other videos. This is kind of just like a tie them recap type video, tie everything together. It's to reintroduce people to the channel that are new, that have just found it. If you want to support Happy Lost Souls further, you can become a member for as low as $1.99. You'll get content, like there's a whole audiobook on there by chapter that I wrote that only members have access to. Sometimes I'll be doing, I'm thinking about doing some live streams over there once the memberships build more. But remember, it's going to a good cause. And as the channel grows, the quality of the videos will probably get better. I'll probably actually get some better equipment and all that. But I have mixed feelings about it. Some people like the old school, Blair Witchy approach. Some people hate it. There's so much fake AI generated stuff in the world. Sometimes it's just a nice, relaxing change of pace to hear some realness, some characters, some flaws in a discussion. And most of my stuff is undocumented, unscripted. It comes from my mind. So please fact check. These aren't written in stone facts, but they're all very, very close, if not accurate. So you can use these as starting points to go, and I encourage people to go do research on their own. A lot of these topics I'm bringing up are just lost and unknown to history and time. So these are very good starting points. I do a lot of feet on the ground, rock hounding and searching, and I do a ton of just as much online research and archival research as I do boots on the ground research. Sometimes it's a lot easier if you narrow down where you want to look before you actually go out looking. You'll be more successful that way. I have other videos up on the channel that give you tips and tricks on to how to find good artifact locations, where to find certain gemstones, and I'll be putting out more in-depth videos about that stuff all the time. But Happy Lost Souls is music, it's philosophy, it's poetry, it's discussions about archaeology, anthropology, and mainly centered around a bunch of unknown cultures and peoples that were in North America and South America that were responsible for shaping the history of humanity. And we don't really, or haven't done really serious open-minded archaeology in North America ever, because we just don't like to go digging past the 13,000, the black earth mark, the scorched earth mark, where the comet came in. Anything after that represents a time period before the Younger Dryas, and that's when the time period of the megafauna, when they said there was no humans in North America yet, but there's evidence all over the country that people have found artifacts going back at least 18 to 20,000 years. There's a site in San Diego where they were doing road work, and an entire kill site for a woolly mammoth was found with butcher bones and stone tools dating back to maybe 100,000 years ago that are more Neanderthal, like some of the axes and knives that we find by Neanderthal percussion style stoneworking. And these are at, even around here, there were a few of the artifacts I found in situ time-wise, and they were under the burn layer by almost 1.5 to 2 meters. So thousands of years before the Younger Dryas event, 13,000 years ago. Stuff that shouldn't be in North America. And alongside of those artifacts, which I have a video about too, called the North American Neanderthals, alongside of those stone butchering artifacts and spearheads, we found fossilized remains of butchered bone. Now, I'm not a paleontologist. I couldn't tell you what animal they were from. I just know that they're bone, because I am into geology. I know what fossilized bone looks like. But anyways, guys, there's so much cool stuff. If you're into all this kind of unknown or undiscussed history, a lot of it right around here in Pennsylvania, because that's where I'm from. A lot of this stuff is in your own backyards. And if you live around Philadelphia or even in the suburbs, there's so much history around Philadelphia. It was one of the birth spots of our nation. So there's all of that. You got history going from colonial to way back in the Stone Age. It's some of the stuff that academia disagrees with that I'm seeing massive amounts of every day. And its efficacy too. It's not like I found one artifact that looks like a stone tool. It's that you find 17 to 20 of the same exact shape and design tool. More, I only take about that many into the collection with me, because I find thousands and thousands of stone tools at these quarry sites. I don't have dump trucks, and I'm not, removing tons of stone. I'm just hobby hunting, surface finding within localities of the law for the creek and for the area. So these are all alluvial finds within alluvial deposits in tidal streams, without digging, without sluicing, without underbanking or anything like that. The quarry sites are quite obvious. They were quarry sites in colonial times. They were even quarry sites in Victorian times that built a lot of the stone houses in my area. They're built out of schist. We have a very unique schist that's loaded with different gemstones, because Wissahickon schist contains high levels of aluminum and other metals, but especially aluminum. That's why we have a lot of sapphire and rubies in the area, because they're made of aluminum oxide. And the geological tectonic processes in the area subjected this schist to tons of heat and pockets of oxygen, creating perfect atmosphere for aluminum oxide to form. It could be mistaken for quartz, because quartz is way more common. So we have all that crazy geology with this uptick in our area. Some of the oldest stone exposed on Earth, some of the gneiss formations, the Miocene gneiss formations in the area, and the bandit metamorphic formations are some of the oldest exposed rock on Earth. So you have these crazy geological situations that this creek is running through, and especially the Pennypack. It runs on a fault line, an ancient fault. That stream, the Pennypack, if you've ever walked through it, Pennypack Creek in northeast Philadelphia, running through Huntington Valley up through Willow Grove. It starts in Warminster. That creek is so old. It was there during the Cambriatic period, 255 million years ago, when the whole area was a shallow ocean. That creek was still flowing under that ocean, because it's fed by natural aquifer limestone springs, and it flows in the crack of the fault where two plates are coming together. So the creek has changed a lot. It's been worshipped because it starts from the ground. It's born from the earth, from the spring, and it gives life, gives water. And then the creek is mysterious because it flows uphill. It's dark. The water doesn't look like it's moving. I believe there's a lot of spiritual things going on. That's why a lot of the artifacts found in the collection are found in pairs, deposited at these deep pools and these crossing sites. They also seem to be depositing some of these fancier artifact pairs at sites where they're quarrying. So maybe they one of their gods was linked to stone, and they're paying homage to that. I have no idea. Maybe their marriage rituals, or two tribes coming together type of ritual. Maybe they're death rituals. I have no idea. It's almost impossible to really guess about people's beliefs once there's no written history and everything else has disappeared. But the point is, as these older generations of gatekeepers start to die off, we need to start digging past 13,000 years. We need to start reevaluating these bizarre bones and skeletons left behind in these mounds and in these clear Neolithic passage tombs. I mean, they're all over the northeast of America. So you're telling me there wasn't people here building the same exact stuff 4,000 to 6,000 years ago when Stonehenge was made? We know that the people that built Stonehenge, they were part of the beaker culture. They brought metalworking to the UK. And we know the people that were bringing metalworking were sailing from the Mediterranean because they were exploiting the tin. England was called Tintagel before it was called England or the UK. It was entirely, there's so much tin. It's where all the tin came to create bronze. You mix tin and copper together, you get bronze. Cyprus was where most of the copper came from during the Bronze Age, and an unknown source, which is most likely North America. And the tin came from, I believe, the east coast of America, because that's where there's a ton more tin and aluminum. And I believe a ton of it came from England as well. But I believe that if they could sail no problem through, the gates of Hercules, through the Mediterranean, they could around the coast of England and bring a whole culture forth to England. There's no stretch in my mind that they couldn't have made it across the ocean if they had that advanced sailing capability and maritime capability. I think it all fits under this ancient maritime culture that was probably destroyed before the last flood that gets referred to in myth as Atlantis. I think there's more than just truth behind that. So, but anyway, we'll do a video later on about Atlantis, a more in-depth video, because I have some really cool info to focus in on that could really help prove the existence of Atlantis, especially with some more of the information coming out about, especially the Eye of the Sahara and the structure over in the Sahara, and you could see the massive wave that came in and wiped out north coast of Africa. So it's probably where Atlantis was. I think it's called the rickshaw structure. I think it's a geological anomaly that kind of looks like what the capital city of Atlantis sat in. I'm a firm believer that Atlantis was more than one place or city. It probably had a capital city. I believe it was an advanced trading empire that used the ocean to its great advantage, and I believe this is where South America is linked. I believe South America is linked to the whole Atlantean story. Anyways, stay tuned for some more cool videos. Please subscribe, comment, like, share. I thank you guys so much for the support. The channel is really growing. And I couldn't do it without all of you, even if you just listen because this stuff bores you or my voice puts you to sleep. I get that sometimes too. Whatever you listen to, thanks for the support. And keep searching out there. Stay happy. And even if you're lost, stay happy, because you'll either find yourself or you'll find something that could change your life for the better. Anyways, please stay tuned, and I love you all. Peace.